Hey guys, welcome back to Sad Dad. My name's Dave Abcary and I am a comedian out of Fresno, California, and this is a podcast where I sit down with my fellow funny friends, my fellow comedians, and we talk about dads. Hi, how are you? How's your week been? Oh man, it's been a crazy busy week here for me. Recording this the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and if you're listening to this on the day that it comes out, it'll be out on Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving. I hope you're eating all that weird Thanksgiving food that we never eat any other time of the year. So it's good. I don't know. There's a lot of people, I see it on the internet. It's a bit of a meme, I guess. People talking about how weird and kind of gross Thanksgiving food is. And like, they're not wrong, you know? I mean, like stuffing is a weird thing. Like, what is it? Like, it's bread that we shove inside of a bird to cook and eat, you know? I mean, when you start looking at these things objectively, it's a little strange, but I like it. It's good. A little gravy on top of your stuffing, and then just like mix in some of the mashed potatoes with the gravy. Oh, so good. I have a move I do at the Thanksgiving table, and you guys can do this too and really wow your friends. You take a piece of ham and you wrap it around a crescent roll, and it becomes an inside-out ham sandwich. Do that trick for your friends. They're going to be blown away. You're going to blow minds with your culinary innovations just on the fly. You know, people are like, did you think of that like right now? And you'd be like, yeah. So yeah, I got a bunch of stuff I got to do today. I got to get this podcast recorded and edited together. We've had some great shows this week. If you're in the Fresno Clovis area, don't miss out on the fun. We've had some just super fun shows. This last week we had Scott Powers up from Modesto. He came out, just killed it. I love Scott. He's so funny. Matt Cole was up doing our show last night. Matt Cole, friend of the show, previous podcast, Sad Dad guest. And then tonight we got Daniel 86, who I adore. Again, another previous Sad Dad guest. He's so funny. He's got a dry bar special out. If you want to see Daniel 86's comedy, go to the Dry Bar website. It's there. He's gone viral a couple of times with some of the clips they've put out for him. So very, very funny man. Check him out. He's also got a great album too called Carry the Pillows. Yeah, Daniel's great. Real rising star, and I adore that man. We're doing we're doing a special Sunday show with him. Again, if you're local, Fresno Clovis area, Sunday, December 1st, we're doing a Daniel Aegis is going to headline a show at Full Circle Olympic. So that's a great venue. So come out. Yeah, it's $5. Well worth it. Was super worth the money. I promise you. I wouldn't put on a bad show for you guys. Come on. Oh, we're just ranting now. Oh man, and speaking of great performers that we've had in our rooms, let's talk about today's guest, Jeanne Whitney. She's so fucking funny, man, and she was a great podcast guest. We recorded this episode that you're about to listen to. Literally, she was kind of like on her way out the door. We hadn't found time. I'd been meaning to sit down with her and record an episode of Sad Dad with her while she was up. She was up here for 2 days doing shows, and we just kind of like got busy, and the timing was always off. And it got to the point where I was literally like, well, I guess I'll do a Sad Dad with you next time you're up. And she was like, yeah. And then literally, like, she was on her way out the door, and she was like, no, let's do it now. And it was really cool of her. I think it's the earliest I've ever recorded a podcast. We recorded it at like 9 a.m. And it's really good. She's a great guest, very, very talented comedian. Her material is just so polished, man. Like, I mean, you see comics go up and they're funny and they'll crush a room. But sometimes you see a comedian go up and they're funny and they'll crush, but like their material is just sort of like, it's just like buttery smooth, and it's really, really impressed. It's like the type of set you'd expect to see on like a late night show, you know? I mean, Whitney brought a very funny comedian with her to feature. Her name is Rena Herdert, and Rena and I were talking about that with Jeanne. She's like man, she's so ready for a late night spot. She's her material is there, her performance is there, her stage presence is there, her delivery is perfect. Her material is smart and it's well thought out, and it's just good. She's so great. So. I actually haven't gotten a chance to listen back to the episode you're about to listen to, so I'd love to tell you some of the things we talked about, but it was 2 weeks ago, and Dad doesn't remember all that well. I remember it going well, and I remember really liking what we did. So we'll listen to it together today, guys. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Let's do the damn thing. Jeanne Whitney. All right, and you got your bubbly water.
Yeah.
You got your headphones for you right there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Cool. Okay.
No, that's okay. It's all right. Yeah, now you're in the podcast
Ooh.
bubble. Yeah, it's fun. You're my first guest to talking to Bethany. It's my,
Really? I don't need to move anything, right?
No, you're good. You can probably get this a little bit closer. Yeah. There you
Okay.
go. Yeah. I don't know. You came up to Fresno with Tom Goss.
Yeah.
And I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
It was actually a year ago. I remember it was in November.
How funny.
It was in early November because I remember it was before I was taking another trip to like New York, and he asked me to come up to feature for him.
Yeah. We were it was at the Italian place, or not the Italian place, the Irish place. Was it Grog's? Is that where you guys performed?
I felt like it was an Italian place, but it was different than.
Was it in the back
the night
room
before.
at Chico's?
It was in a back room. It was in a totally different room.
Yeah. But that was one of the things I really respected about you reaching out to me, which was you didn't use that. Well, you kind of like, I booked you. I forgot that you had come up.
Oh yeah.
And like you sent me your tape, and I really liked your tape, and I booked you totally on your talent rather than on like the fact that you knew Tom Goss also. Like, so I don't know. I just had a lot of like respect for you as a performer in that way.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. Well, I told you I knew Anna though. She was the one
yeah. I mean, everybody
who
knows
told me
Anna.
about.
That's not even a credit at this point. That's great. Well, you've been in Fresno for 2 whole days now.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it? You got to walk around yesterday.
Yeah, it's almost like a desert town, right? In a kind of a way.
Kinda, yeah. I mean, it's like pretty arid around here, yeah.
Yeah,
Kinda.
And I like the fall foliage. Mm-hmm. It's enough north that you have that, and my mom grew up here, and I think I have a great aunt here. An aunt I'm named after. And I was going to call her, but I don't know if I have time.
Oh, yeah, probably not now.
Yeah. I didn't even really know she was alive, honestly. And until my other aunt was like, Aunt Jeanne is still there. I'd love to see you. And I did call
It's in your bones. It's Fresno's calling to you.
Yes. Yeah, we walked around downtown, I guess, like the hipster
Yeah, you were in Tower
sort
District.
of village.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I like that place. That's one of my favorite parts of town.
Yeah, it was pretty.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. Like, I don't go, I'm usually not, I don't know. You got to enjoy it fully sober. Usually I'm there and I'm a little bit buzzed or drunk. There's a lot of bars down there. So, yeah, I'm glad that it holds up for a sober person, too.
Yeah, it was great.
Sometimes I'm not sure if it's just drunk goggles. I'm like, this place is awesome. That's awesome. You grew up in the Midwest?
Yeah.
Where'd you grow up?
In Indiana.
Yeah? What's that like?
Well, first I was born in Indiana, but we lived in Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
But Evansville, Indiana had the closest hospital.
Yeah.
It was really quiet. There was lots of land. I grew up in like a house out in the middle of the nowhere in North City, Illinois, and we had a horse and we had a bunch of collie dogs.
Oh, wow.
We had like 70 acres of land.
Yeah.
So I could like roam all over this land, and it was just me and my mom and my brother, and very quiet, small town. I remember it being kind of lonely.
I was going to ask, like, yeah.
So that was one thing. My mom was like, your dad loves to live out in the middle of nowhere, and I wish you had other kids to play with. But there wasn't really any other kids to play with. Mm-hmm. So I made up all these imaginary friends.
Wow.
I had like 9 imaginary friends. Yeah, that's fucking... Real lonely kid.
Yeah.
The most we would see people is we'd go to church every Sunday at this place called St. Patrick's.
Wow.
And there was a restaurant called Echoes. And we'd eat breakfast there. And
Before church or after church?
after church.
That was my favorite part of church. Was
Yeah, the
going,
breakfast.
I'm like, all right, wrap it up, preacher. We got to get out of here.
Yes.
Dad's hungry.
And they had these chocolate cakes. All these cakes lined out. I just remember, this is my childhood memories, is cakes. But it was really beautiful there. It's all very Christian.
Mm-hmm.
There was like a small market and a school and a bank. And
yeah, and just
lots of fields.
you and your imaginary friends wandering the countryside, huh? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I think as a kid I liked it. It was beautiful and peaceful, and we had like a pond that we could swim in and ride dirt bikes, but I think I always wanted something more.
Sure.
Like I loved Whitney Houston, and there were no black people in my town.
Sure,
and I was just like, where are the black people? I want to see black people.
Where are you keeping them?
I know. It's like, everyone here is white. It's so lonely.
Do you feel like that, like, lonely kind of like childhood though, kind of like lended itself to your creativity though? I mean, do you feel like?
Yeah, maybe. Like I had to be creative.
Yeah.
I had to make up friends and personalities. And
yeah. Because you're a great writer. Like, your material is really
you.
like fun and interesting, and you present it well. And I think there's a little bit of like that Midwestern charm to it, I mean, because you're very like likable on stage.
Oh, thanks.
So, yeah, I mean, that's just me shooting from the hip here as far as psychoanalyzing your childhood. But so were you like growing up? Were you like a good student? Were you like?
No, I was a horrible student.
Were you really?
I loved to read.
Mm-hmm.
My mom loved to read. She like kind of instilled that in me.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to read the curriculum that they presented a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think when we moved to Evansville, I was in third grade. I was 9 years old, and my grades were really good up until that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started to drop down in my grades. I was never good at math,
Mm-hmm.
and also I started early. And I probably shouldn't have done that because I wasn't up to speed with their math skills.
Right,
yeah.
right. Yeah, that can be real frustrating for a kid. Yeah.
So I would have to take like a tutor for math, and I'd have to be taking fifth grade math instead of sixth grade math. I remember, and they put like a paperback on a cover on the
I remember
cover
those.
of the book.
Yeah, we're about the same age, so yeah, I remember those weird
Yeah, so that no one in the class would see I was taking fifth grade math. But
Oh,
I'm like,
wow.
now you've just put a scarlet letter on me. So
Yeah, that's rough.
I felt like I was dumb. I didn't, and I think the other kids thought I was kind of stupid. But I really loved to read, and I remember reading this book in English, and it was like this mysterious thing about a little girl, and she keeps dropping newspapers off the side of this bridge, and I can't remember what happened, but at the end of the story, none of the kids understood what was going on, but I did, and they're like, "How did you figure that out?" And I was like, "Who's fucking stupid now? Fucking idiots! You couldn't figure that out."
That's so funny.
But I didn't like school. I started getting really bad grades, and then I guess I got to a point where I just didn't care if I was getting bad grades or not. I was like, I have my fantasy world, and
yeah. Hey, yeah. I mean, were you and your brother real close? Were you? I mean,
yeah, we were really close when I was kids, and then when he got into high school, we weren't as close anymore, and I think I got very jealous.
Ooh, yeah, that's rough.
Yeah,
just you. I mean, it's so. This is gonna sound awful, but like the setup of your childhood sounds kind of like the setup to like a horror movie. Like, like there's
Why is
like
that?
I don't know, like empty farmhouse, lonely kid, and like you're playing in your room one day and like from off screen, like a ball rolls up to you, and like you like look and it's like your imaginary friends, but it's really a ghost. But like you can't really tell. You're like, oh, that's just my imaginary friend. And then the ghost gets really jealous of your brother and like starts attacking your brother. I don't know.
I mean, I make it sound sadder than it. Like the childhood was really great. My brother taught me how to ride a bike. He taught me how to swim.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
And my dad didn't. My dad was always home, so I'd hang out with my dad all the time.
Yeah.
My mom worked.
Oh, that's cool.
My mom and I loved to sing together. Like it was a pretty happy childhood. I really didn't like when we moved to Evansville. I went to all these Catholic schools, and they were so strict, and I just hated them.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. I mean, were your parents real religious? I mean, were they
Super religious?
Yeah.
Super Catholic. Yeah.
Well, that's rough.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, you told me kind of a funny story the other night, but were you real into sports growing up? Were you an athlete?
I liked baseball. Was cool. And then they tried to get me to play basketball. And like I told you, the other team would high five me because I helped them win. And I was like, hell yeah, somebody appreciates me. And then what I loved was choir. I was just in choirs, and I remember my dad saying like, the girls are jealous of you because you can sing better. Like,
yeah.
And he just installed an ego in me from a very young age. But I loved, because I don't know, I just kind of felt like I was, it's going to sound sad, but like a nobody growing up.
Yeah.
So the things that I was good at, I really wanted to be recognized for them.
Yeah, I get that.
So if we got like a solo at church, I would be like, fuck, I'm going to really practice this. I'm going to show them.
I'm going to rip this solo.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that's cool. So you grew up out there, you go to high school out there. I mean, are you the popular kid, or you're just kind of the lonely?
I was so unpopular.
All the way through to the end, huh?
I was very badly bullied in schools. I changed schools a lot. I went to a school named St. Philip's, and then I went to Corpus Christi, and then I went to Mars, which was a public school, and that didn't work out. And then I went back to St. Philip's. I got kicked out, and then I went to...
What'd you get kicked out for?
So this girl came to school crying and saying that I threatened to bring a gun to school and shoot everybody.
Oh my God.
This was right after Columbine.
Wow.
And I didn't do that. They called me in the office. It was a complete surprise to me.
Jesus.
And I walked in the office, and my dad and my brother were standing there. And the priest was there. And then my dad was like, you don't have to say anything. And the principal was like, don't talk to her right now. And my dad was like, don't tell me I can't talk to my daughter.
Good for your dad.
And,
Yeah.
and then he started telling the priest he was a hypocrite. And all the teachers started closing their doors because my dad was yelling.
Oh, wow. Good for your dad for standing up for you, though.
Yeah. And my brother was wearing like a really tight tank top. He was in sports. And I know my dad was like, put on a muscle tee and let's go down there.
Like he's your muscle? That's so
like he's
funny.
a gangster and he's and then I got kicked out, and then I was like, what happened? And I guess then I found out that this girl came to school, and I saw the girl years later at a party, and I was like, why did you do that? Yeah. You know I didn't say that. And she goes, oh, well, a couple other older girls told me to. So
wow. And you have no idea what their beef was with you, or
they just didn't like.
They're like, she's just too talented. We're gonna ruin this girl's. Yeah, that's no.
Shitty. It's just when you have a group of girls, sometimes some of them will get cliquey, and then they'll push one out.
Yeah.
And I happened to be the one that they pushed out.
Yeah, that's shitty.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
One or two out.
Yeah.
I mean, there was another girl that wasn't as popular, and we kind of became friends.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Where do you end up going after high school? Like, what's your trajectory after that?
So, I went to Wrights. And this high school, I'm talking to you like you know, right?
Yeah, I don't know what that is. Yeah. I was just gonna pleasantly nod and smile till I figured it out in my head.
It was a public school in Evansville. My parents wanted me to go to the Catholic school in Evansville, which was called Mater Dei, Mother of God in Latin, and oh, mother of God, I didn't have to go because my grades in math were so bad that I wasn't. They're like, you can repeat 8th grade to go to modern day, which I didn't want to go to.
Yeah.
Or you can go to Rights. Mm-hmm. And I was like, my brother went to modern day. He hated it. I don't want to repeat this grade. Take me to Rights.
Yeah.
So I went to this huge high school. There were 2,000 kids, which for me was, I was used to classrooms of 20 people. And I finally made friends there.
Yeah.
I met the weird kids.
Oh, good.
Yeah, there were weird kids, and we all like bonded together. And and in order to stand out, I really wanted to differentiate myself from the other kids. So I just started like wearing really odd clothes, which I guess if I grew up in a big city, it wouldn't have stood out as much. But
Sure.
I, would wear flowers in my hair, and like, I was in theater, and
just trying to figure yourself out. It sounds.
I was like, who am I? I've been told to wear this uniform my whole life. Like, who am I? And I just like kind of burst out of my shell. And
Good for you.
Kids, I was called the freak.
Really?
Yes, but my friend was like, "You're the freak, not a freak. The freak. Fucking own it." I was like, "Yeah, I'm the freak."
Thanks, Kylie. Yeah, really appreciate that. That's so funny. Yeah.
And I really loved it there. But I was acting up. Like I wouldn't. I'd skip class and smoke cigarettes and stuff. And they eventually said somewhere in sophomore year, "Hey, you're not in our jurisdiction, our public school jurisdiction, and you're like a deviant. So you need to go to Mount Vernon, which is in your jurisdiction." So I had to leave school and go to Mount Vernon.
And you were just making some headway with being cool and
I was like the uncool cool kid.
Right. So now you kick in the door to Mount Vernon. You're smoking your cigarettes. So you're like, I'm here to like, I don't know, chew bubble gum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubble gum. That's what you just.
I'm all out of bubble gum.
Yeah.
And it's funny. Actually, I went home to Evansville the other month, and this kid stopped me. This girl that I went to high school with stopped me on the street, and she's like, "I'll never forget when we had this big pep rally between Rights and Modern Day.
Yeah.
You wore a Modern Day Letterman jacket and walked across the floor of the gym." And everyone started booing at you. And I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot that I did that. I was like, what a badass. I wish I had the bravery I had at 14. That I was like, now I'm afraid sometimes to get up in front of 50 people. But at like 14, I was like, 2,000 people booing at me. Oh, yeah.
I live for this shit. That's amazing. Where do you end up going after high school? Do you?
I went to an acting school. I went to college for like a semester, and I was like, I don't think this is for me.
Yeah.
I never really liked school. I tried to go down to Florida with someone and like start a band, and that lasted a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And
I didn't know you were a musician. I mean, I knew you sang, but
yeah, I was just like a singer of a band.
Yeah.
And then I got this envelope in the mail for an acting school in Los Angeles, California, and I always wanted to move to California, so I tried out for it and I got in. I drove out there with my mom, and she moved me into my first apartment. And
wow, good for your parents.
Went to acting school. Yeah,
way to be supportive. That's awesome.
Yeah, I remember my mom was like, "Well, you might become successful and you might not, but you have to try it, or you'll spend your whole life regretting it."
Oh my God, how cool! Yeah. So you're like early 20s at this point, is that right? Or?
Yeah, I moved to California when I was 18.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've been out here a
just
long
turning
time.
19. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I moved back. I ended up moving back for a little bit after I graduated and went to New York a little bit.
Yeah, but you saw that acting school all the way to the end. Is that?
Yeah, I went there 2 years.
Good for you.
And it was like coming home. It was like I finally found my school.
Yeah. This is my tribe. These are my people.
Yeah, I finally found my tribe.
Oh, that's great.
It wasn't in the Catholic schools where I was, kind of an outsider. And then I'd meet all these like wonderful teachers. Teachers were finally being nice to me. I was finally doing my work.
Yeah.
I was making friends with all these weird artsy kids. I graduated from there.
Yeah.
And then I really wanted to do stand-up. I started...
I was going to ask you, at what point the stand-up came in for you? How did that go? Or how'd that start, I guess would be the better...
I just started listening to David Cross, I think was like the first stand-up comedian.
Mm-hmm. He's so funny. Yeah. David Cross is hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah. And who else did I would listen to, like Wanda Sykes and just tons of comics. And I told somebody I was dating at the time, I think I really would want to do this. I want to do stand-up. And he goes, but you have to be really funny to do that.
All right.
And I was like, yeah, I guess I'm not really funny. I'm not as funny as David Cross, so guess I better quit before I start. And
there's probably plenty of nights David Cross isn't as funny as David Cross. So yeah,
David Cross wasn't as funny as David Cross when he started out. I'm sure.
Yeah. And so did you? I mean, you got that weird objection from your significant other, but like, did you persevere through that, or did you really just put comedy on the back burner for a while?
Yeah, I did. I thought I wanted to be an actress. I mean, I still love acting. And then did like some indie stuff, and then I moved back home for a little while. And then I broke up with that boyfriend. I was just so distraught.
He was no good for you anyway. I'm happy.
Yeah. So I was so distraught that I just started listening to comedy all the time. It was the only thing that was making me feel better.
Did you listen to it much growing up, or was it like something you found while you were in acting school?
I liked SNL, and I liked comics and stuff like that. And I always liked comedy, but I didn't really think that I was funny. But I remember in acting school, we did like the Glass Menagerie, and I played Amanda, and my teacher was like, you need to be bigger. You need to go, you're being too robotic. You're hiding yourself. And once taking that direction, people started laughing. And I was like, this feels really good to have people laugh at what I'm doing. Like I feel loved.
Right. Well, yeah. And you're like one of the best kinds of comedians to hang out with too, because you're never like running bits on anybody, and like
really?
You're a good listener. I think 99% of comedians are terrible listeners.
Really?
But, 100%.
I have to work on listening. You're a good listener.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I guess. I mean, it's a learned skill. It's not anything that was like inherent. I had to be like, I need to shut up more. But So you go through this breakup. You're like listening to comedy nonstop, and then you're like, I'm gonna do it. Or how does that go?
Well, I was in Evansville, Indiana at the time, so there was no place for comedy. But I ended up moving to New York for a bit, and I'd broken up with a boyfriend. We went back out, and then we broke up again, and then I was in New York, and Louis C.K. was like my favorite at the time. This was all pre-Me Too, and I loved Louis. He was my hero, and I was living with a girl who owned a barbershop, and they were gonna do like a show, like kind of like a music show. And she goes, "Why don't you open it up with some comedy?" I'd never done comedy before.
Whoa! All right, we're just jumping in.
But I was like, I'm gonna be a genius, like on the level of Louis, on the level of Wanda Sykes and Cat Williams. Like this is my moment. So I go to this barbershop, and I bomb so hard. I remember somebody dropping something and hearing it so loudly.
Wow, yeah.
And they were like, just get off. They started playing music.
Ooh, all right.
So,
well,
I was crushed.
Yeah. That's brutal. But did you, I mean, were you like, were you hooked? I mean, I know you were crushed, but were you like, that, you know what I mean? Or did you?
I really wanted to do it again, but I just thought, well, I guess I'm not any good. And, then when I was 25, I moved back to Los Angeles, and I met this girl who was doing comedy. I worked with her in a restaurant, and I told her that story, and she goes, it sounds like it wasn't the right place to do comedy.
Yeah.
They didn't even bring you up. You just started talking. That's a weird scenario. Who could do well at that?
Yeah, nobody. Yeah.
And she's like, you don't have to be funny to do comedy. There's tons of people who are not funny.
Believe it or not, it's really good advice. Like, I mean, That's what I tell people. I mean, if they're really, really willing to listen, because a lot of people, that's like their big fear is like, oh, I'm going to try comedy and not be funny. But it's like, I don't know, for the first year, don't even worry about being funny. Like, just get up there and do it. Like, just do it.
Just get it in your bones doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just get used to like going in front of people because it's just terrifying, you know? And it's like... It's like I'm doing comedy, but I'm not worried about being funny. It's like, oh, like there's no pressure then, like you know, like, and then you can just kind of like relax into. But yeah, so I mean, it sounds what she said to you sounds ridiculous, but it's some of the best advice you could give to somebody.
She was not the most friendly person, but at the same time incredibly encouraging.
Yeah.
And I followed her to an open mic, and I went up and I was terrified. And it was like 3 minutes, and I just told a story of something that happened to me, and I saw somebody come in from the outside to listen, and I was like, oh,
yeah,
wow,
yeah,
I gotta do this more.
Yeah,
That's
great.
Just started going to open mics and
just hammering it out, huh?
Yeah,
you were.
I was horrible, but I was like, I'm just gonna give myself time.
Yeah. That's great, and. You, I mean, you have a great bit you do about it on stage, and that's how I know that you did it. But you were in Scotland doing comedy. Mm-hmm. It's so cool.
Yeah, Scotland was fun. I was there with Rena, and they have the big Edinburgh Fringe Festival in the month of August. And I did a show with 2 other guys called One Chick, Two Dicks, because we realized like in the Edinburgh programming, if you have a number in your name, you'll be first.
Oh, funny.
So I was like, why don't we call it One Chick, Two Dicks? And they're like, that's a great idea. And I was like, that was a joke.
Oh, no. Okay. This is what's all right. This is what our show's called. All right.
So that's what, but it turned out to be fine and fun. And it was great. We did it every night for the whole month of August, which kind of got draining.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. Because we were in a cave. I think all of Scotland is just a cave, and it was just musty, and when it rained, the cave would kind of flood, and then it would be super hot and humid.
You're going to have to, I don't know if you're speaking hyperbolically right now. You were in a cave?
We were in a fucking cave.
Wait, tell me.
There's like there was this building off of, is she laughing for there? Laughing. Or there's this building off of this street called Cowgate, and you go in and it's like nice on the first floor. It's a bar, and then you go up these stairs and it gets like there's like a little theater, and then you go up these other stairs and that's a fucking cave, and that's where we were. Yes. Yeah. All right. Stone walls and mold and
holy
black.
Shit. And you were there. You were at that venue for the entire month.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I could see how that would be. That's almost like it's like, I'm going to do comedy for a month. And then it's like, oh my God, I'm doing comedy for a month. Like, you know.
Yeah,
like
every night.
Yeah.
Every single night. And if you, like, sometimes you'd have a bad night and you'd have to get right back up again.
Yeah.
And, but I think it made me, I don't know, it made me stronger.
Yeah. Just that whole perseverance thing, you know.
Yeah.
Because you don't give, like, sometimes, like there was a comic the other day, and it's happened to me too, where like it almost feels like an emotional bruise. Like, you know, like you're almost like you bomb really hard and you're almost like tender. Like, you know, like if it's like somebody just slugged you in the arm really hard and you're like, like it's still kind of sore, you know, and
your energy's low.
Yeah, your energy's really low, and but you're forcing yourself to soldier through that pain. So yeah, I could see that. I mean, in the long run, I'm sure it was terrible in the moment, but yeah.
Well, you got to just go back and go, okay, is there something that I can do better?
Yeah.
Is there something I can change or add?
Yeah.
You're like in the thick of it, so you're like, I have to get better because I don't want to experience that again, and no matter what I do, I'm going up on stage tonight.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah, it's like a really like bad bomb is like it's like a weight you wear around your neck, you know. It's just like like I feel it like. And it's weird, like you remember it, and like and a lot of times the only thing you can think is like, I'd never want to feel like that again, but even then it's still there. Like my biggest bombs, I still feel them in my bones, you know. I think about them, once daily, and
cringe.
And cringe. And like, what am I doing? And here I am.
Yeah,
again.
like if it was a show where there was somebody there that I really wanted to have a good set in front of.
Yeah.
And I didn't. Maybe I'll think about it in the wee hours of the morning and be like, oh God.
I had a bad set in front of my aunt, uncle, and cousin who I hadn't seen in 10 years. I was down at the Madhouse. I was doing a set. And it was the early show, and I think I was like second on the lineup, and I didn't. It wasn't a full on bomb, but it was not a great set, It was like, oh, we just kind of like barely brought this thing in for a landing, And I was like, man, I wish that wasn't the set that they saw,
Yeah, that's hard when it's not really that bad.
Yeah,
it's just like a tinkling of a sprinkling of a bomb, and then so whoever came to see you will be like, "Oh, you did fine." This is
it was like, that crowd was rough. I was like, it's probably the crowd's fault. Yeah.
Those Madhouse shows though, they can be kind of tough.
They can be a little hit and miss.
Yeah, and I always kind of. This is bad on my part, but sometimes if I bomb, I hope the other comedians bomb.
There's nothing worse than somebody going up after you
and they kill it. Yes.
Yeah. Oh. So then you have nothing to like hang your hat on,
I know. You're like, that was 100% me.
Yeah, it was 100% me.
Right.
I've been in that position before. And you're just watching that guy and you just hate him.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the times that happened to me though, the guy was crushing, but he was also defending me. He was like, you didn't give that guy what he deserved. And I'm like, this is really sweet, but I hate you. Like he's just murdering while defending me, and I'm like, no, I don't want it. It's a lot of complicated emotions. I don't know how to deal with this. I don't have the emotional intelligence.
Thanks.
Well, you're Jeanne Whitney.
Yes.
And this is a podcast called Sad Dad, where we talk about our dads. You mentioned him a couple of times already, but you have a dad.
Thanks. Yes, Dave. Thanks, Dave. I feel so bad talking so much about myself. Is that weird?
No,
Does anyone else say that?
I don't know. I think it's just because you're a nice person.
Oh, okay.
Most comedians love talking about themselves. So
yeah,
way to be way to have that self-awareness. But I mean, I was telling you earlier, it's such a big ask. Like, tell me about your dad. I always like to kind of start at the beginning with everything. So, where did your dad grow up?
My dad grew up in Minnesota.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure how long he was there.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, he moved to Montecito, California, with his parents, and I think that he grew up in the Depression. He was born in 1929.
Uh-huh. Oh, wow.
Yeah, at the very beginning of the 29 or 28, I can't remember. Bad daughter.
You're fine.
So, but they lived in Santa Barbara at some point when he was a kid.
Uh-huh.
But they, of course, they grew up kind of poor because everybody was poor in the Depression.
Sure, yeah.
But he always talked highly of his dad. He was like, every night we had food on the table.
Wow.
And at some point, I think they came into money. And I mean, they lived in Montecito, California, a very rich place.
Yeah.
But my grandmother spent a lot of the money. She loved to buy furs and to kind of lavish herself. And I think her husband let her do that because it was cheating.
Ooh.
So,
Yeah.
but my dad, he grew up there. He had a lot of fond memories of Santa Barbara.
Do you have any sense of what he was like as a kid? Was he like a real precocious kid, or what was he doing out there in Michigan?
Was athletic. In Minnesota?
Or just as a kid. I mean, I don't know how long he was in Minnesota.
He didn't talk much about Minnesota. I can't remember when he said he left, but he just talked about how cold it was and awful, and he hated it. And he loved Santa Barbara, and I know he was very athletic and artistic and sort of like a ladies' man.
Yeah.
The girls loved him.
Getting it. Yeah. He's like that weird, Greasers era, like age, I don't know. He might have been in the movie Grease. I don't know.
My dad might have been in the movie.
Yeah, Grease. I don't know. How old would he have been? He would have been in his mid-20s, in the mid-50s. Am I doing the math right on that? Yeah, 30. Yeah.
Yeah, in the 40s he would have been going to high school.
Yeah, maybe he's a little too old for that.
Yeah. But then he, at some point he became like at 16, I think he left home.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he went and became like a rancher and a cowboy in the rodeo. And
Oh, wow.
Got a woman pregnant when he was a teenager at some point and had a family to take care of.
Oh, okay.
So he just started working at a young age.
Yeah.
And then he married this woman. Should I say her name? I don't know.
I don't know.
Barbara.
Yeah. Barb.
And they lived together in Santa Barbara, and he had 3 kids with her.
Oh, wow.
3 or 4. 4 kids. It's kind of weird.
What's the head count at this point? So he had 1 as a teenager, and then those 4. So he's at 5.
So he had 1 kid, Elaine, and he always kind of had an estranged relationship with Elaine. It was sort of strange.
Oh.
Sort of strange. I think he
with Barb in Santa Barbara. Yeah.
Yeah, Elaine was his daughter, but I think he kind of suspected she wasn't or something.
Oh, wow.
And then he had 2 sons and another daughter, Becky, which was his youngest, and that I've talked about in my stand-up before.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And they lived in Santa Barbara, and I know my dad was really big in the art community there. He taught at the art classes at the college, and he was a really good painter and sculptor.
Yeah.
And just like, I think on a genius level, like his stuff is beautiful. And he would go down to the beach in Santa Barbara and paint and stuff. And,
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And then he ended up getting a divorce from Barbara. And the kids didn't know why. He wouldn't tell them.
Oh, really? And
Yeah.
is it still a mystery to this day?
I know why.
Tell me. Or you don't have to. I don't know. Whatever. I like this
Well-
juicy bit of gossip about people I know nothing.
I mean, it was. I grew up hearing that she had cheated on my dad over and over and over again.
Oh, no.
And that he even came home once and saw his wife cheating on him.
Oh, that's
and
awful.
then he eventually started cheating on her.
Yeah.
And then they broke up. But I guess my dad never told his kids that she cheated. And he wasn't, when he started cheating, he wasn't hiding it. Like, he'd bring the woman with him to pick the kids up from school.
Oh my God.
He's like, "This is Orlame, this love of my life."
Wow.
And I think Clint or Lenny told me that he asked my dad once, "Why did you and Mom get a divorce?" And my dad was like, "None of your business."
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
Man of secrets. Yeah.
Well, I think he was protecting them from like, he didn't want to turn them against the mother.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah,
And he
yeah.
could have done it in a nicer way. He could have been like, your mother and I.
Right.
But my dad wasn't like that.
I mean, it's different. Depression era, people aren't real. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not really touchy-feely.
Yeah,
None of your business, kid.
Yeah, I think that's, he was probably doing the best he could with,
Yeah.
He was trying.
Yes.
And so he's kind of this artsy-fartsy dude. He goes through that divorce. Is that when he moves to Indiana? Or, what kind of happens after that?
No. He did a lot. God, he did a lot of stuff. He raced motorcycles in
What?
Santa Barbara. He was like a state champion.
No shit.
Yeah. And he boxed. He had a broken nose from boxing.
Wow.
And he just seemed like this cool guy. I guess it didn't work out with Orlame, the woman he was seeing.
Oh, right.
And she was married too.
Jesus, yeah.
And
What if you had to guesstimate? Is this the 70s? What era is this?
60s. I think.
60s.
Yeah,
Oh,
that was
gotcha.
the 60s.
What a cool time to be in Santa Barbara too.
Yeah, they had a lot of protests going on.
Yeah,
and he was
yeah.
participating in that.
Good for him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like a real woke dude for the time.
Yeah. His friend did a cartoon once of him, an artist friend, of my dad looking really angry, and it says, "Peace or I'll kill you."
It's kind of fun. Yeah.
So no, so he had a divorce, and the other kids moved to Utah, and I think he was really depressed, and he just kind of started seeing a lot of women and worked at a factory called Neil Fay. I don't know if they're still around in Santa Barbara, but he did some kind of artsy thing for them. They're a steel manufacturing company.
Yeah.
And my mom started working there, and she had just graduated college in UC Santa Barbara, and he started, asking my mom out, and she would say no, because people were like, watch out for that Al. Like, he drove a Jaguar and had an earring. And
oh, wow. Yeah, this guy.
Yeah.
yeah. He's a slippery dude. Watch out. Yeah.
Yes. And then I guess eventually she said, yes, okay, I'll go out with you. And they went out for a while, but then he started also seeing this woman named Linda at the same time. And my mom just told him, like, you can have Linda, but you won't have me. And
hey, good for her.
Yeah, and then my dad was like, she didn't get upset. She just walked into her house, and that was it.
Ooh.
And I was like, what am I doing?
Fuck Linda. Yeah.
He's like, Linda is crazy, and this is a really good woman. This is the best woman I've ever met. And then he, like, begged to have her back and stuff. And they moved into this cabin, and my mom basically convinced him to become Catholic. And
really?
Yes.
Wow.
And they got married, and then they had my brother, and then my dad was like, it's too expensive here, so they moved to Indiana and bought the little farm house.
Yeah. And then there was a pretty, I mean, just kind of doing like what I know of you and what I know of your dad, there's a pretty big gap between when your folks got together and when you were born. Is that right? Because your mom would have just graduated.
Yes, she was 25 and my dad was 45 at the time.
That they got together.
Yeah. And then they had my brother. They dated for 4 years, and I don't think my dad wanted to get married because he had, like, so much heartache.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And then the priest came up and was like, you guys need to get married.
Wow. Fucking church again.
And he was like, all right.
Yeah.
So they got married, and then they had my brother at 32, and my mom was 32, and then she had me at 40. And I think I was a surprise.
Really?
Baby.
Yeah. What? I mean, I don't know. Was it because my parents were a little older when they had, like, my mom was 38 when I was born. I mean, like, did you feel like I felt like this? Maybe you can relate to it, but I felt like I kind of missed out on some of, like, the more hands-on parenting that some of my friends got because my parents were just old and tired. You know? I mean, was that your experience with it too, or?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
My dad was more like a grandpa dad.
Sure.
There wasn't a lot of discipline. My mom was at work all the time. She worked as a nurse. I think she was kind of a workaholic.
Oh, sure.
If they asked her to work overtime, she was never said no ever to the hospital. So, and they love people that don't say no. They'll just drive them into the ground.
Yeah.
And she was the more stable one. So I basically just grew up with my mom was gone a lot, and just kind of grew up with my dad, hanging out and talking with my dad.
Because this is sort of like your dad's third go at this thing at this point. Is that right?
I was his last child. Yeah.
Right, but there's, like, almost like eras of your dad, and, like, this seems like, he had the early rodeo phase, and then he had that middle phase with the and then now you're like slotting in, like, third, and this is this whole thing, and so I mean I imagine your dad's just like kind of like an old hat at this, like, family thing. Is that?
Yeah.
I mean, he's like, it'll all be fine. It'll all, I don't know. What's his attitude?
I read this, like, Christmas letter, and I guess he used to put mittens on my hands when I slept, so I would suck my thumb.
Okay. Yeah.
Is it bad for kids to suck their thumbs?
I mean, it can, like their teeth can, it can affect how their teeth come in and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he like knew a lot about kids because he raised, 4 of them already.
Right.
So he was very smart. Like, you couldn't get away with anything unless the only way to get away with something was to manipulate him or wait till he was tired.
It's funny.
Yeah. And so I just grew up with him, talking to him, and we'd do, like, he'd take pictures of me all the time. He was a really good photographer.
Yeah.
And it was fun.
Yeah. I mean, were you guys I mean, would you say you were close? I mean, what was your relationship like? I mean, was he real active and involved in all the things that you were into, or what was he doing?
Yeah, I think I wanted to be just like him. Yeah.
That's interesting.
He was very active and involved, more than my mom was, because I don't think she had time.
Right.
But like if I had like a singing thing, he would come.
Yeah.
And support, or if I had a sports thing, he would always be right there. Whenever I got in trouble at school, he would be my defender, even if I was in the wrong. Like he would come there. Like in high school, I got in trouble because this kid Robbie Mays and I got in a fight.
Yeah.
Robbie Mays was like a football player. And
he was always trouble. That Robbie Mays.
Robbie Mays. And somebody called Robbie a faggot.
Ooh.
And probably me. I can't remember. Somebody said, but Robbie was me. Like Robbie would push me and shit in the hallway, and I think I just yelled out. You could say faggot at the time, and so
sure, it was a different time. I mean, we're all a lot more enlightened these days. Yeah.
But the teacher heard somebody say this, and then I was brought into the office, and my dad sat next to me and was like arguing with 4 different teachers and a principal on my behalf.
Wow.
And he was like, "Don't you see that this guy likes Jeanne, and that's what the problem is here?" And
I've never heard of somebody like straight up bullying a girl though. Like that's wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
I walked in the hallway and
bullying.
he called me a freak and just shout at me. And
wow.
So he was like, "This guy just likes Jeanne," and then the teacher was like, "Jeanne's a bad student," and blah blah blah.
Jeez.
And this kid doesn't have any problems with any other people in the school. And my dad was like, "Well, that's because Jeanne is the prettiest girl in the school." And they're like, "No, she's not. There's plenty of other girls that are pretty." And my dad was like, "Don't call me a liar. I am an artist. I know beauty when I see it."
Jesus Christ.
And then he made everyone get quiet because he told them, he's like, "Look, she's been through a lot. Like she got bullied in this school, St. Philip's," and everyone got quiet. And I remember just staring out the window, trying not to cry.
Ooh.
And it was that moment, like my dad knew me better than I knew myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think I was excused after that. They're like, "Oh, well, she's still suspended." But, but yeah,
that's wild. What's he doing at this time as far as like work? Like, what's he?
He was retired when
nice.
I was born.
Yeah,
he was. I mean, he was 60 when I was born. So he was retired at that point, but I think he had money from his mother.
I'm gonna have a retirement kid. Yeah.
Yeah, he had a retirement kid.
Just a little hobby. Yeah, so we keep myself occupied. Yeah. That's. And was he retired from that factory he was working at that he met your mom at, or what was?
Yes, I think he helped her go through school. Like he worked while she went to school, and then once she got a job, she was the breadwinner.
I got you. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, he had it all figured out. Like he was, he's like, I'm just gonna work and get her through this thing, and then I'm gonna retire, and I'm gonna have a couple kids.
She was an investment.
Yeah. I mean, he's a man with a plan. It's the best part was he made it look like he didn't have a plan. So he was a criminal mastermind. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know we gotta get you on the road, but let's bring this thing in for a landing. This is something I did not tell you about. I like to end this show with I call them dadicdotes. It's just like your favorite dad anecdote that you like to tell. I mean, obviously you have a really funny bit about your dad in a car, but it's whatever poignant or funny or fun story. It's like your favorite to tell about your dad. And if you need a second to think about it, through the miracle of editing and post-production, I can make this seem instantaneous. So if you need a minute,
I
that's
have
totally
one. Okay, so so when I graduated from ADA, from acting school, we did a play at the end, and my dad and my brother came out to see it. And I told my dad, like, "I'm so nervous. I can't do this. I'm so nervous." Like, I was just terrified. And my dad sat down next to this guy, and he goes, "Are you Ben Kingsley?" And the guy was just bald and had like glasses. And the guy was like, "No, I'm not Ben Kingsley." And He goes, oh, yeah, sure. And then he's
That's
like,
exactly what Ben Kingsley would say.
that's what he goes. He goes, I was like, Dad, the guy said he wasn't Ben Kingsley. He goes, oh, they all say that, Jeanne. And so I said to him, he's like, my daughter is so nervous. And she's really scared, you know, she's performing. And we came out to see her. And Ben's like, oh, okay, you know. I'll just call him Ben for the
for the sake of the story. Yeah.
So after the play, my dad came up to me and he goes, you'll never guess who sat next to me. And he just came up to me and he grabbed me and he goes, Al, she's got nothing to worry about. She was magnificent. And he goes, can you believe that? Ben Kingsley saying that about you. And my brother was like, that was not Ben Kingsley, Dad. That was a bald dude with a mustache. And then my dad goes, oh, don't damper the moment. I think he's jealous. And then, so years later, if I ever had doubts and things, my dad would be like, well, Ben Kingsley believes in you and he thinks
so
you're
funny.
terrific. And that's just not a nobody. That's an Academy Award winner.
That guy was Gandhi.
Gandhi loves you.
That's so funny. Jeanne, you've been a ton of fun today. If people want more Jeanne Whitney in their life, where should they go? Where should they find you?
I'm starting a podcast too.
Yeah.
I don't have as many episodes as you do. It's called The Good Old Days.
Yeah, I've seen your posts about that.
Yeah.
What's the premise of that podcast?
So I talk about movies from the past that today would be considered politically incorrect.
Yeah.
And I do like a rating system, like a snowflake system. So anytime it's racist, it gets a snowflake. Sexist, another snowflake. Mm-hmm. And some movies will be considered blizzards.
Oh no!
But I've just started doing it, so I'm trying to figure out the whole technological part of it.
Oh yeah. I mean, I do this a lot, so if you need any help, let me know.
Thank you.
Shoot me a message or something. And walk you through it. I've gotten into this weird position where I'm consulting on a lot of podcasts right now. So yeah, if you need some help,
okay, cool.
I'll get through everything I do. Cool. And then you have a website too.
JeanneLWhitney.com.
Cool. I'll link that in the show notes. So
thank you.
Yeah, there's probably a link to your podcast on your website too, or will there be?
Yes, I believe so. If there isn't, I'll put it up.
Cool.
Immediately.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on. You've been a great guest.
Thank you.
And we're back. Jeanne Whitney, everybody. She's great. Follow her on social media. She's got a great website. She posts all her dates there. We're gonna have her back up soon, I hope. Rate and review on iTunes. Sad Dad Podcast. I'd love you forever. I didn't check to see if there are any new reviews. Probably not. We're probably fine. You guys are you're a quiet bunch. I like you. Every Sad Dad fan I ever meet in the wild, they're just like the coolest, chillest people. You guys are so fun. And it's weird now because this is episode 86, and every now and then somebody will. They'll be like, hey, you said this thing on this one episode, and they'll ask me about it, and I'm like, I don't remember saying that at all. But anyway, 86 episodes. That's wild. That's so many. That's so much talking. I don't know. I gotta start thinking about the Sad Dad 100th episode Spectacular Rama. I don't know. I'll phrase it. I'll do something fun for it. I don't know. Maybe another clip show. I like making clip shows, man. They're so fun. Get to listen to old content. So that's it for this week, you guys. You can hop on the Sad Dad Facebook page and we can talk about stuff. I've been watching. Oh my God! I hope you guys are watching The Mandalorian. I know I mentioned that last week. It's super fun. It's like a straight up Western. There's an old timey shootout. It's stuff like that. Baby Yoda, so cute. We could talk about that, whatever you want. Anyway, I'm still painting tiny little miniatures for Dungeons and Dragons. I think I'm gonna get a new D&D group going. I want want some like experienced players. Like I don't mind teaching people how to play. Like I love teaching people how to play, but also too like I'm looking for people that like really want to like role play the thing. You know, like I mean, there's a term in Dungeons and Dragons when you have players, it's like they don't want to like role play or like be like in the moment or in the character or play along with whatever the dungeon master is doing. We call them murder hobos because that's basically what they are. They're just hobos that wander around in the in-game universe killing things. And murder hobos are no fun, man. I want people that really want to be that Orcan shaman. All right, guys, that's it. We'll be back next week. I got to record an episode for you. I've been so busy, I haven't been able to sit down with some guests. Who do I have coming out next week? I gotta think about that. Let me look at my calendar. Probably edit this part out. Maybe not. I don't have time to edit things. I got Rosenberg coming out. He's done an episode of Sad Dad before. Matt Champagne, that'd be interesting. Yeah. See if I can get Matt Champagne on there. I was watching Vice. I was watching the movie Vice the other day. You know, about Dick Cheney. It's got Christian Bale in it and Sam Rockwell. I was watching Vice and they cut to a shot of this guy, and it's fucking Matt Champagne, the guy that I have coming out to headline next Wednesday. Hopefully I'll get him on the show. I was like, is that fucking Matt Champagne? What's he doing in this movie? I had no idea. He's got a pretty good line in it, too. But anyway, all right, that's it, you guys. I love you. I will catch you next week. Happy Thanksgiving. I'm gonna make my specialty, which is cheese bedegg. I talked about what that is last week. If you have some questions about what that is, message me on Facebook or saddadpodcast@gmail.com. You can get a hold of me there. If you want to see pictures of my minis I've been painting, they're so bad, but I love them. I mean, like I don't know. I just painted this dwarf. I've been working on zenithal highlights and got some Nuln oil to do some shading. Oh man, it's just I'm way down the rabbit hole at this point, you guys. So, all right, that's it. Adios.